Okay, now we need to go over what it's like in competitive labor markets and how the number of workers is set. And so on the left-hand side here, we're going to have the market graph. And it is the intersection of supply and demand for labor that sets wage rates and the number of workers. And so the wage rate is set here. So the price column is wages. And down here, this is the quantity of labor. Now, firms in perfectly competitive labor markets are wage takers, so they must take the wage that is going in that market. And this is their MRC, their marginal resource cost. The demand curve for labor slopes downward, and it is equivalent to your MRP, or marginal revenue product. And the intersection of those two will set the number of workers hired. So it will be here. Now, if there's any change in the market graph, and for example, supply increases or decreases, what would make supply increase or decrease? Well, a change in population, the willingness of people to work, either fewer hours or longer hours. That would all shift the supply curve. So let's say there's an increase in the population. Well, the population increase will lead to supply shifting to the right. And when that happens, we get a new equilibrium with a lower wage, but the number of workers hired in the market increases. Now, for the firm, the number of the wages are lower, and so your MRC drops. And when wages are lower, firms will hire more workers. And so the number of workers in the market and the firm both increase. Again, what will determine wages is this MRP equals MRC. You always go where MRP is equal to or slightly greater than MRC. Now, what would happen if there's a change in the demand for labor? Let me back out these changes in supply. If there's a change in demand, what would shift the demand? Well, changes in productivity. If workers become more productive, they're in greater demand. If they become less productive, they're less in less demand. A change in the price of the product, because that's going to affect the MRP. So an increase in the price of the product will increase the demand, or change in the demand for the product, the good in question. If the demand for the good in question increases, then the demand for the labor will increase. Let's say workers are more productive. If workers are more productive, the demand for labor will increase, and so it will shift to the right. Wage rates will go up. Now notice here, wage rates go up and the quantity of labor increases in the market. But when wages go up for the firm, what happens to the number of workers hired? It decreases. You might ask, well, if more workers are hired in the market, why is the firm hiring fewer workers? Well, they are more productive. The wages went up, so they can't afford it, but those workers can produce. They're more productive, so they're producing the same amount as the previous amount of workers. And so this explains it. So this is unique when the demand curve for labor shifts. It does the opposite in the firm. And so this is the impact of changes in supply and demand in a competitive labor market and how it affects the firm. So next thing we'll go over is what it's like in an uncompetitive labor market, which is called a monopsony.